Hey guys, so this is the part 2 of derivatives video I created yesterday. So, in this video, in the previous video, we talked about, I explained the basics of derivatives and what a derivative is. So to recap, a derivative is the rate of change in y with respect to x, basically just taking the slope of a line. In this video, I will be discussing the different rules that come with derivatives and some examples that go along with it. So let's get started. The power rule. The power rule is the most basic rule of all of derivatives, and it's simple. Basically, if you have a x to the power of n, you basically take that a power and put it as a coefficient and subtract the power minus 1. So say you have x squared. The power, the n is 2, x is and x is x basically. So what you do is x squared. You take the a power, put it as a coefficient. So in this case, x squared, the 2 will come as a coefficient. And what you do is you do 2 minus 1, basically taking the exponent minus 1, which will result in 2x. So power rule. So this is the example of a power rule: 2x to the power of negative 10 plus 7x to the power of negative 2. So the derivative using the power rule, you can see that negative 10 goes to as a coefficient. So there's a 2 already in the coefficient. So what you do is you do negative 10 times 2, which is negative 20. And then you take negative 10 and subtract that by 1, which comes to negative 11. So that will be negative 20x to the power of negative 11. And there's a 7x to the power of negative 2. So the negative 2 will go to the coefficient, and there's already a 7. So you do 7 times negative 2, which is negative 14. And you take the negative 2 and subtract it by 1, which is negative 3. So final answer will be negative 20x to the power of negative 11 minus 14x to the negative 3. So the sum and differential. The sum and differential may look hard, but it's actually simple. You just take the derivative of each f of x and g of x, and basically you just add them together. So an example is derivative of 3x to the 5th plus 4x to the 4th. What you do is you take the derivative of 3x to the 5th, which is 15x to the power of 4, and take the derivative of 4x to the power of 4, which is 16x to the power of 3, and add them up. So the final answer will be 15x to the power of 4 plus 16x cubed. For the difference rule, it's the same thing, except you subtract. So the product rule. The product rule at first may look hard, but once you keep practicing, you'll get used to it. So what the product rule is, basically, if you're multiplying f of x and g of x, the product rule says that the first term, f of x, will be constant, and g of x, you take the derivative. So it'll be f of x g prime of x, and add that and do the opposite. So before you took the derivative of g of x, now you keep g of x constant. And since you kept f of x constant before, now you take the derivative of f of x, which is f prime of x g of x. So example is 3 minus x squared times x plus 4. So what you do is note that 3 minus x squared is f of x and x plus 4 is g of x. So what you do is you take the derivative. You keep 3 minus x squared constant, and take the derivative of x plus 4, which is 1, and then add that to x plus 4. You keep g of x constant, and take the derivative of 3 minus x squared, which is negative 2x. So the final is, and then you simplify at the end, which is just basic algebra. Find the common terms and cancel them out, and at the end, the answer will be negative 3x squared minus 8x plus 3. The quotient rule. This is by far the hardest rule, and I just looked at it and kept practicing until I memorized it, and it comes naturally once you go through the process. So what the quotient rule is basically the same thing as same thing as product rule. You take the numerator, you do u prime. So say this is u of x and v of x. You take the derivative of u of x and keep v of x constant, but instead of adding, you subtract and keep the u of x term constant, and take the derivative of v of x, since you kept v of x constant before. So it's u prime of x v of x minus u of x v prime of x. But the difference is that you divide all of that by the denominator squared. So in this case, it will be v of x squared. So an example of quotient rule. So example is 3x over x squared minus 1, taking the derivative of the quotient rule. So in the end, you take the derivative of 3 of x, keep x squared minus 1 constant, so it will be x squared minus 1 times 3. Subtract that by taking the derivative of 3 of x, which is just 3, Taking the derivative of x squared minus 1, which is 2 of x, multiplied by 3x. You keep the 3x term constant, as before. And then all divide that by the denominator squared, which is x squared minus 1 squared. So at the end, all of that will simplify to negative 3x cubed minus 3 over x squared minus 1, x squared minus 1, all that squared. Thank you for watching.